Hi, this is Kristin Clark with College Planning Untangled, and we're here today to talk about helping your kiddo pick the right major. Now, this is a great topic because I'll tell you, transitioning to college is one of the most exciting and also one of the most scary things that our kids have to do in their life. And I will tell you that's true for us too as parents. So I feel like knowing the facts makes this transition just a little bit less scary on both sides. And, I want to start today with a little bit of a trivia to get you level set on what the facts are around college. So I'm going to share my screen for you. And here we go. So, how long do you think it takes the average student to complete a 4-year college degree? You might be surprised. What we see happen is that it typically takes a student 5 years to graduate with a 4-year college degree. And that's actually starting to go up a little bit. So we're inching into the 6 years. A lot of parents are a little bit surprised by that, but it does happen. So one of the things that I want you to really consider on this is, are you prepared to pay for another 1 or 2 years of your college education? So that's one thing for parents to think about. What percentage of college students do you think complete their bachelor's degree within 4 years? It's B. 41% of students complete their bachelor's degree in 4 years. So again, not a number that everybody feels is, that they feel it's a little bit low, but that's where we're at. What percentage of students do not return to college after their freshman year? If you want to put it in the chat, if you're in the chat, I would love to have you put that in there, what you think the answer is. 30% of students don't go back to college after their freshman year. That's a big number. Almost a third of our kids are not going back after their freshman year. Now I'm going to move this up so that you can see the rest of the questions. What's the most overwhelming part of college planning for students? Is it picking a college, choosing a major, or writing the Common App essays? Now, if you're in the middle of essays, I could see why you would pick that, but it's really choosing a major. 2/3 of our college students say this is the most overwhelming part of the college planning process, is deciding on a major. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The next one is, what's the most popular college major to study in the US? Lots of people want to say business, but guys, times are changing, and computer science is actually the most popular college major right now. On the next question, what does 1 year of college cost on average? Sorry to say that it's A. So you're looking at your cost of tuition, your room, your board, all your extras. You're looking at about $130,000 if they finish in 4 years, if they're part of the 41% that finish in 4 years. So you can do the math on that and what it may cost if they bump into year 5 or year 6. And then lastly, what's the average starting salary for a college graduate? And then I've also included trade school graduates on here. This is probably the best piece of what you're seeing today. The average starting salary is actually C. It's $51,000. And then for people in the trade schools, it's $42,000. Now, what's interesting about this, and I think that you really need to step back and think about it, is for our students that are thinking about going into the trades, they're going to be in their trade school anywhere from 18 months to 2 years usually. And if they're getting out and starting at $42,000, then they're getting salary much faster than our kiddos that are going to college. So I don't want you to discount trade schools as an option for your kid, because there's really a lot of benefit to going to trade school and being in the trades. And by the way, if it's what your kiddo is wanting to do with their life, it's going to be a good selection for them. Now, one of the things I want to point out for you is I have a college planning timeline. So if you're interested in getting the timeline, you can text timeline to 71441. And I'm going to go back to, I'm a fact girl and I love facts. So by getting this college planning timeline, you will have, all the steps that it takes to help your kid get to the point where they can get into college. It's very simple. I like things to stay simple. And if you've got any questions on that, you can always reach out and give me a call. I'm at 214-207-5887. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Guys, if you're listening, please feel free to jump in, throw any comments into the chat box. I would be glad to answer anything as I'm going. So today what we're going to talk about, as I said, is how to help your kid pick the right major. I'm going to teach as much as I can in the 45 minutes that I'm going to be on air today, but I promise you I will tell you how you can take it further before the end of the discussion. So here's what I noticed when my boys were going off to college, and that is our high school counselors and our college consultants doing a really, really good job of helping our kids get into college. The tactical stuff that you have to do, figuring out when to take the ACT, the SAT, when should you write your essays, what else? Yeah, figuring out when to get your applications in, all of that stuff. They're really good at helping our kids figure this out and make sure that they do all these things on time. But what I'm seeing is that we're missing a crucial step, and that is really understanding the whole child and how your child's built and what they want for their future. So I look at it and I say, we should start with the end goal in mind. And that is really, what do they want as far as a career path? Isn't that why the really core reason why we're going to college? And I will tell you, I'm a firm believer that it's not just going to college and learning. There's all, the things that go with that, like adulting and critical thinking. Those are all parts of it. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get our kids to a point where they are skilled enough and have enough information behind them that they can pick a career path. So that's where I think college planning really starts. It starts here. It starts with the end goal in mind. Let me tell you a story about one of my clients. Her name's Taylor. So Taylor went to the University of Arizona. She got a degree in accounting, got out, and got a really good job at one of the most prestigious accounting firms in Phoenix. And I got a call from her mom, and she said, Kristin, you know what? I need your help. Things are not good, and it is breaking my heart to watch Taylor and what she's going through. Can you help? And so I called up Taylor, and we talked for a little bit. And I said, Taylor, tell me what happened. I was like, you majored in accounting. You must be good at math, or at least enjoy math. And she said, no, Kristin, I wasn't. That was a really hard 4 years for me. And I was like, Taylor, well, let's back up a little bit. Tell me what happened with the job. And she said, Kristin, I started this job. I just never felt like I fit in. I was there for 4 months. I did what I could, but she said, I quit and I feel like a failure. And, I was like, Taylor, hold on. You're not a failure. You figured out something you didn't want to do. Unfortunately, it took a little bit of time, with going through school and, getting the job and doing all the things you're supposed to do. But let's back up, right? So we talked about this idea of accounting and how it was hard for her. And, I said, Taylor, so why did you pick accounting in the first place? And she goes, Kristin, I went into school undeclared. I knew that I wanted to get a good job. And she said, my mom's in business. So I thought, she likes business. She's good at business. I'll just pick business. And accounting's a good, solid skill to have. So I won't have to worry about getting a job because they'll always need accountants. And, I looked at Taylor and I was like, man, I just hate, my heart's breaking as well with her mom, that she is just feeling so, distraught really about what has transpired. And what Taylor did and what her family did is what most families do when they're planning for college. First, they pick a college. Then they determine a major, and that might be their sophomore year, right? For some a little bit earlier. And then when they get into their junior or senior year, they start thinking about a career. This figure it out as you go plan is not working. It hasn't worked for decades. I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach, so I follow their studies. And Gallup has a study that they did, and they found that 30% of employees today in the US, and this has nothing to do with the pandemic, it was before that 30% are engaged with their work. So what does that mean for us? Basically, that you've got 70% of our workforce that's not engaged, that they're in the wrong roles, and that they're doing the wrong things within their work. So, guys, that is a huge number. And it goes to show you that the way we've been doing this, the way we've been figuring out our careers, isn't necessarily the right way to do it. Another stat that I have is 30% of students do not go back to college after their freshman year. I brought this up in the college facts, but it's a big number, and I think it's really telling as well. And what I'm finding is that for those students, for most of them, there wasn't a plan in place. They didn't have an end goal in mind. And so I look at parents and I'm like, a lot of times it's funny. People say, really, Kristin, can a kid figure out a career path at 17 years old? And my answer back is, at what age should they start thinking about this, right? Do they wait until they're 19? Do they wait till they're 21? Do they wait until they're 45 and they've been in a job for 10, 20 years and not like it? I believe, and I can tell you from working with students, that they absolutely have big ideas on what they can do at 17 years old. So we think that there's a better way to do this as far as college planning. And we flip the order in which you are making decisions on college and a career plan. So the very first thing that we talk about is figuring out your career path first. After that, a major is really easy. In fact, it just falls out of the plan because you're very clear on what type of career you're trying to go for. And then you pick a college. So now your college can support your goals. You can make sure that the college you're choosing has the best program for what you're trying to get accomplished. You know what SAT and ACT scores you need, right? You spend the most time on those types of college applications for those schools. And you really have more ammo for essays because now you can tell a college, here's why I really want to go here. And here's what I'm trying to get accomplished. And I think your college is the best place for me to be. So do you see how everything starts to line up once you've got this idea in mind as far as a career path? Another benefit of this is you've got more kids that are more engaged in their studies because they know what they're shooting for, right? They appreciate their education a lot more. They're more confident and resilient, and they know that they're in the right place doing the right thing. I look at parents and hey, I'm a parent too. I've got 2 boys. But have you ever started a 4-year project without knowing why you were going in the first place or what you're trying to get accomplished? We're asking these kids to really have a leap of faith when we don't need to, where they feel a lot more confident about walking into school. The result is they do better in school, okay? Because they're enjoying college for all it has to offer. They're learning critical thinking. They're having all the fun that they can have on campus because now they have time for it. They understand why they're there. They're going after the right things. And then hopefully, we're still testing this out, but they get out in 4 years versus the 5 to 6 years that it's taking most of our students. So it all makes complete sense to go after this in this way, right? Anybody that's listening, if you have questions, thoughts, you want to debate me on any of these, please put something in the chat. I'd love to talk with you about it. And I will tell you one other result that I see coming out of looking at a career path first and having these discussions in the home is if your child's end goal doesn't require college, then we can avoid those costs entirely, right? And we get them launched in the right direction right away. Let me tell you a story about Lauren. Lauren was a hairdresser of mine a few years back. And, when you're at your hairdresser, you get talking about a lot of conversations. And she asked me what I did. And I said, well, I work with students, helping them to figure out a career path after high school. And she was like, oh, Kristin, I so wish you would have been around when I was in college. And she said, I distinctly remember sophomore year standing in front of my roommate. And I said to her, I don't even know why I'm here, because what I really want to do is hair. This was her sophomore year of college. And she said she finished college with a psychology degree. She got out of college. She looked for jobs, didn't find anything that she really looked interesting to her, and ended up going back to school to be a hairdresser. And she's got $120,000 worth of college costs. She's in debt and trying to pay that back. The good side of the story is she's thrilled with what she's doing. She's happy. She loves doing hair. And her goal is to possibly own her own salon, right? So she knew as a sophomore. And I said, Lauren, why did you keep going? And she said, Kristin, the true answer is I was afraid to tell my mom. I was afraid to tell her that this is what I wanted to do, because she so wanted me to go to college. And I think there's, some thoughts in that for you as well, to open up the conversations in your house early so that you don't do what Lauren did. Let her tell you what she wants to do with her life, and then have some conversations around it. And I can tell you, with working with students all the time on this, they are going to talk themselves out of anything that doesn't make sense for them. So college planning really starts with having this career path in mind and determining a career path. Here's one of the I guess visuals I'd say that I give my clients is, if this was all in here, all the careers you could ever want, if we can get your child into this pie shape and get rid of all the white noise, all the extra stuff, around the outside of this, we can get them into an area that they're interested in. I was talking to a client last night, and she was talking about a lot of different things in the medical field. And she was talking about dermatologist. She was talking about being a general practitioner. She was looking at being a surgeon. And, when I was talking to her, I was like, Margaret, you're kind of in that medical space. That's your pie shape. So why not go to school with medical in mind, get all the, opportunities to try different things in college, because that's what it's there for. It's to give us the opportunity to try things, get in that pie shape. And then as you have experiences now, guys, you're navigating within that pie shape, and all of your experiences are building upon each other, right? So when you figure out a pie shape like that, you don't have a kiddo that's doing a 180 pendulum swing where they're like, wow, medical, that's really hard. It got hard. So you know what? Maybe I'll do marine biology. And then they flip over to marine biology and they're like, oh, geez, that got hard. It wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe I'll just do business, right? And you see that a lot. And that's the reason why a lot of our kids are taking 5 and 6 years to get through college, because they're changing majors. And I can tell you a lot of this is because they're not having these conversations. I hear parents say all the time, oh, that's normal. Kids change majors all the time, right? Well, that is normal. That's why it is taking longer to get through college. But what I'm telling you is, if you're having these conversations up front, you're going to diminish the amount of times they're changing majors. And the other thing is, if they are changing majors and they're changing them within the pie shape, then it's an adjustment, okay? Their credits sometimes will transfer into the next major. So it just makes a lot more sense. Now, I will tell you this is hard for kids to do, because there are no deadlines. There's nobody telling them that they made the right choice. They don't get a grade on this. They have to do it for themselves. So I will tell you, it's a lot easier to put their head in the sand and just sit there and go, you know what? Mom thinks I'd be a good engineer. I'll just do that. Let me check that box. That's just easier, because we've been doing a really good job of giving our kids direction, for the last 17 or 18 years. So why wouldn't they believe us? And this is sometimes hard for parents. So what I help parents with is what I call the 7 little words. So as your kiddo is trying to figure this out, instead of giving them the answer, instead of saying, "Oh, I think you'd be really great at being a lawyer. Oh gosh, I think you'd be a really great doctor," or "You should be in marketing, you should be in graphic design." Let them come to you and tell you what they think they want to be. And the 7 little words that you can say to help them open up and start talking is, "That's really interesting. Tell me more." Okay. And I know as parents, this is the hardest thing to do because you so desperately want to give them the answers. But on this one, guys, you just can't. Get them to talk to you. Now, the first time you say that, I promise you, they're going to look at you like you've got 3 eyeballs, and that's okay. Keep doing it. Put it into your own words, but keep saying that same phrase and get them to talk to you. Okay. It's really important that they see you as somebody that's going to be their biggest cheerleader, which you are, that you're going to support their ideas. And if they're digging into those ideas, I promise you, you're going to start to see which ones they're truly interested in because they're going to put in the effort. And you're going to see the excitement start to come through when they hit something that is gold that they really, truly are interested in. So how do we help our kids pick a career path? I call it starting with the end in mind. And it starts with E, getting them excited, right? Start with what they already like to do. What skills do they have? What knowledge do they have? What interests do they have? Now, we all know that their interests are going to change. They're not going to love video games for the rest of their life. But to be able to start with those, you're going to start to see patterns. And that's what you're looking for. I can tell you, like for 17-year-old boys that are in my classes, they are always talking about video games. But one of the questions that I ask them is, what is it about the video games that you love? Is it the strategy that's involved? Is it hanging out with your buddies because now they're on the headsets? Is it that you get to lead, in a lot of these games because they are talking, some get to be in leadership roles. What is it about video games that you just love? And I think that's a big indicator too on, where they're at and the things that they love to do within those games. The second thing is the N, and that is understanding their natural talents. And I will tell you, this is my secret weapon when it comes to helping students figure out a career path. And I want, for the people that are listening now, I want you to just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to think about something that you're good at doing. Okay? Take just a minute and think about the things you're good at. And when I say that, I'm not looking for the things that you're skilled at. If you make a mean meatloaf, not what I'm looking for. What I'm really looking for is the things that make you good at either your job or working with people. So let me tell you, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background of this as you're thinking about this. So Don Clifton was the gentleman that came up with Clifton Strengths, and I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. Love Clifton Strengths. They're part of what I do with my clients. Don went to school to be a psychologist. And I don't know if it was during school or when he got into the workforce, but he looked at all these great psychologists and he said, they're all looking for what's wrong with people and trying to fix them. And his philosophy on it was, what if we looked at what was right with people and what they did well? Then what would the world be like? And what kind of outcomes could we get? So he and a team of psychologists and research people and whoever, people much smarter than I am, went out and they studied very successful people. And when they studied these successful people, they figured out all the ways that they're strong and all the ways that they do well in their work. And they boiled it down to 34 themes of strength, which is now part of the Clifton Strengths program. So in that program, it helps you with things like people that are high in maybe ideation. So those people just love the activity of coming up with ideas. Those are the people that when you're lost and you're sitting around a table and you're like, we've tried everything, you pull in somebody with high ideation and they're like, no, you haven't. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? They just love that activity and they're awesome at it. I can tell you I'm high in activator. So I love to get people to move fast. I love to get them, quit thinking about it and just make it happen. Those are the types of things that we're looking for. And with the Clifton Strengths assessment, it helps our clients figure out what they're good at. And here's the deal. When you're really good at something, it actually energizes you and it makes you happy. So those activities are what you want in your work and in your home life. And then the D is for decisions. Most kids tell me that they're afraid of making the wrong decision. And that's why it's so hard to figure out a career. So what we talk about is this is not one big decision that you're making. It's a bunch of little decisions that you are figuring out as you go. And the first one of those little decisions is that pie shape, is figuring out a career path and narrowing it down from all these different ideas, at least into this pie shape. Okay, so now you're making a bunch of small decisions past that. And I will tell you that is, I will call it comforting for students, for them to go, oh, you know what? I can make small decisions, and not feel like if I make this monumental decision that everything's going to go wrong. So it really, really helps them to know that they can make adjustments and this isn't the end all be all. So let me tell you more about Taylor. I started earlier telling you about Taylor, how she went into accounting, got the great job, hated it, quit after 4 months, and felt like a failure, right? So one of the conversations that Taylor and I had was, I said, Taylor, talk to me a little bit about the things you do enjoy doing. So we talked about the things that make her excited. And she said, well, Kristin, I love singing. I love nutrition. I love exercise. I was like, Taylor, that's great. Talk to me about that. Are you a good singer? And she's like, no, Kristin, I'm not a good singer. And, we had conversations around that, because just because she's not a great singer, it doesn't say that you couldn't have a career in and around people that sing, right? There's tons of jobs that she could have gone after, that she could be around that atmosphere. But what we ended up doing is we put that in the hobby category for Taylor. She still sings in the shower. But we did go down this path of nutrition and exercise. And, not only did we think about that, we did think about Taylor's natural talents. Those seem to fit in that she's really good at relating with people. She's really good at looking at people as individuals and not just categorizing them. She really looks at the whole person. Another thing about Taylor is it's important for her to leave a legacy and to make sure that when she's making a difference in people's lives. And right now, Taylor is getting her doctorate to be a physical therapist. Guys, the best part about this is she loves getting up every day. She can't wait to get to class and get to her intern jobs. And she is just thrilled and happy. So the question that I have, though, is what would have happened if we would have gotten to Taylor when she was in college, when she was suffering through 4 years of trying to be an accountant, or even better, when she was in high school, so that she could have avoided a lot of this just difficulty. Because I will tell you this, it was a painful 3 or 4 years for her. She's now taken an additional 2.5 years to get through school. So you've got added expenses on there. So, it's knowing that we could have affected her early on and she could have made this decision would have been a big difference for Taylor. It's interesting when we talked back a little bit about, I was like, Taylor, why, if you were interested in the body early on, why did you not pursue that? And she said, well, Kristin, it's hard. People told me the sciences are really hard. And guys, she's rocking the sciences now, and I see that a lot in my clients as well, that they're afraid. They don't necessarily believe that they can do some of this stuff. And a lot of times they just need a head nod to go, you got this. If this is something you're interested in, it's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy going to school because it's stuff that you have an interest in already. So hopefully that makes sense to you. As I said earlier, 2/3 of students report that picking a major is the most stressful part of planning for college. Okay. And as we know now, it's really more about narrowing down to that career path. My biggest concern for you, or, just what I want to make sure you leave with today is don't let your kid do what Taylor did, right? Start planning for college the smart way and start thinking about a career path first. And hopefully what we've talked about today helps you do that. If you've got any questions, please reach out to me. My information is scrolling at the bottom. You're hitting me right now where I'm changing the name of my company and changing my website address. So I put both of them in here for you because I do have classes for students to help them figure out a career path. And if you enroll, I will make sure, and you mentioned that you saw this webcast, I'm actually throwing in an additional 30-minute one-on-one call with me. And you just need to let me know, right? So give me a call. I'd love to tell you more about the class. It's a 6-week course, and the kiddos come out, and I always ask them, what's your confidence level when they walk into the class? And typically the kids are around a 2 to 4, where they're like 1 out of 1 to 10. My confidence level that I can pick a college major or a career path is at about a 2 to 4. When they finish the class, they're typically around an 8 or 9. So they definitely see the value. I would love to answer more questions for you. If you got any questions, please put them in the chat. And then that's it. I guess that's it. So if you've got any questions, I'd love to answer them for you. And thank you for listening. And remember that college planning starts here. And that's with figuring out a career plan first.